Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Get ready for a story that won't just shock you. It'll make you feel like horror has become a part of your daily life. On April 28, 2024, on the Ismailia Desert Road, a man named Mahmoud, a simple man who works at a small kiosk selling cigarettes and tea, noticed something strange far off the road. A large black suitcase, just lying there in a place no one usually passes through. Mahmoud, like any curious person, decided to get closer to see what was going on. He felt something wasn't right. His heart was pounding as he opened the suitcase. What he saw was like an endless nightmare. The body of a girl, mutilated, wrapped in torn fabric, with blood still soaking through her clothes, which looked as if she'd fought off a monster. Her neck was covered in strangulation marks, like someone had wrapped a rope or metal chain around it with terrifying force. Her body was covered in blue and black bruises, signs of beatings and torture, as if she had lived through a long hell before dying. Her face was disfigured, the features blurred, as if someone had tried to erase her identity. Mahmoud stood frozen, unable to move, his eyes unable to believe what they were seeing. His voice trembled as he called the police and said, "I found a body, a girl, mutilated." The police arrived within minutes, and Mahmoud was still standing next to the suitcase, explaining what he had seen as he tried to process it all. The officer, while examining the body, sensed this wasn't just any normal case. He asked Mahmoud, "Did you see anything else?" "A car, someone running, anything." Still in shock, Mahmoud replied, "I didn't see anything except the suitcase. It was thrown there like someone wanted to hide it." The police began searching the area. They found tire tracks nearby, but there were no documents or anything to identify the body. The victim was Amira, a woman in her 30s. Her husband, Islam, would identify her 2 days later on May 2, 2024 in the morgue in Port Said. When Islam saw her, he collapsed, screaming, "Who did this to her? Who?" While holding his daughter, Farida, who kept asking, "Where's mommy?" The body was in a horrific state, signs of strangulation, bruises, and mutilation, as if someone had taken pleasure in torturing her. But Amira wasn't the only victim. Before her, 2 other girls, Fatma and Nour, were discovered under similarly terrifying circumstances. On March 20, 2024, the body of Fatma, a student in her early 20s, was found in a desert area near Cairo. The body was badly decomposed, but the signs of strangulation and bruising were still clear. Her face was disfigured, and there were whip marks on her back, like someone had written the story of her death in violence. On April 10, 2024, Nour's body was discovered near the 30th of June road, wrapped in a black plastic bag, as if she were garbage. The signs of iron chain strangulation, bruises, and facial mutilation followed the same pattern. And just days after Amira's body was found, on May 5, 2024, a 4th unidentified body was discovered on a desert road heading to Port Said. Same story. Mutilated, strangled, bruised. The 4 bodies were like a message from one killer, someone who chooses their victims carefully and dumps them in remote locations to erase them from existence. The case shook Egypt. People were scared, asking, who could do something like this? How did girls like these fall into the trap? Get ready. This story is full of mystery, shock, and details that will make you wonder, how can a human being reach this level of savagery? And before we dive into the story, don't forget to like and share the episode so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you're a fan of Indian stories, subscribe to the other channel to get all the latest. The link is in the description box. Now, without going into too much detail, let's dive into the depths of our story. The story from the beginning. In 1987, Karim was born in Alexandria into a very wealthy family. From a young age, he was different. His family and friends used to say that he loved to stand out, always wanting to show he was unlike everyone around him. If there was something strange or unconventional, Karim had to do it. He wore stylish clothes, spoke in a way that drew people in, and loved to show that he excelled at everything. His family was proud of him, but they noticed that sometimes he exaggerated just to make himself stand out. After finishing high school, his family moved to the United States and settled there. But Karim chose to stay in Egypt to complete his studies at the American University in Cairo. That's where his first persona appeared. A well-mannered young man from a good family, polite, classy, and extremely charming. His classmates loved him. They said he was always smiling, telling jokes, and knew how to deal with people. After graduating from university, he worked in business with his father, but he wanted to become independent. He felt like his success was tied to his father's money, and that bothered him. So, he decided to pursue a PhD in psychology at the American University, and his dissertation was about modifying the behavior of unstable individuals. People who saw him during that time said he became more cultured, spoke confidently, and understood psychology like the top professors. During that period, he met his wife in Alexandria and married her. His wife saw in him his second persona, a classy, educated man from a good family. At first, he treated her well and showed interest in her, but over time she began noticing strange things about him. He was extremely suspicious, jealous for no reason, and obsessed with feeling superior, even at her expense. After the wedding, he and his wife traveled to the U.S. to live with his family. He held American citizenship, so the move was easy. They lived there for 5 years, and God blessed them with their son, Zayn. Zayn became everything to Karim, but problems started to arise between him and his wife. She complained that he was paranoid, caused fights for no reason, and relied on his father's money instead of working. Even his family began to notice that he never listened to advice and thought he was always right. As the conflicts escalated, Karim decided in 2017 to return to Egypt with his wife and Zayn. When they came back, they opened a tattoo studio in New Cairo, Tagamoa El Khamis. His wife managed the studio, and Karim worked at a major international school, the same school where Zayn was enrolled. In 2019, issues started surfacing at Karim's job. He began getting into fights with his colleagues for no reason, even though he tried to appear calm and educated. But drugs started taking a toll on him. He was using crystal meth, ice, and other substances, which made him act strangely. Sometimes he would upset someone, then come back later with a gift to apologize, as if trying to cover something up. Eventually, the school decided to let him go because of his behavior. That same year, a huge conflict erupted between him and his wife, and they got divorced. Karim accused her of cheating on him with his closest friend and filed a case of adultery against her. He took custody of Zayn and told him that his mother was dead, even though she was still alive. And that's when his third persona began to surface, a personality filled with violence and brutality, one that only his victims would ever see. And now, let's get to know his victims. Amira was a woman in her late 30s, married to Islam, and they had a young daughter named Farida, who was 6 years old. She lived in a small apartment in Cairo, but always loved visiting her mother in the village of Abu al-Nomros, in Giza. Amira was a simple woman with a big heart and dreamed of providing a better life for her daughter. Islam said she was the soul of their home. She loved singing Kulthum songs to her daughter Farida, like Enta Omri, and taught her how to draw and told her fairy tales. She used to read self-help books like The Power of Positive Thinking and dreamed of starting a small business, maybe a clothing shop or an online store. She would tell Islam, "I want my daughter to become a doctor or an engineer." Islam admired her ambition, but he worried about how easily she trusted people. Amira was known in her neighborhood for being kind. She helped her neighbors and loved sitting with her mother, Fatima, reminiscing about the old days. Her mother said Amira had always dreamed of being independent since she was a child. In school, she was always top of her class and loved writing stories. But life didn't allow her to continue her education. She married Islam at the age of 25, and 2 years later gave birth to Farida. Life was hard, but Amira remained optimistic. She used to tell her friends, "If life closes one door, it opens 1,000 more." On April 27, 2024, Amira told Islam that she was going to visit her mother in Abu al-Nomros and would return in the evening. She was excited because she had heard about a job opportunity in advertising from someone she met on Facebook. She told him, "This opportunity could change our lives." Islam tried to convince her to verify the person's identity, telling her, "Don't go alone." But she laughed and said, "Don't worry, I know how to handle myself." He told her, "Call me as soon as you arrive." She promised she would. On April 28th at 6 a.m., she called Islam and told him, "I'm on my way back now." Her voice sounded normal, but there was a hint of tension. An hour later, her phone was off. Islam tried calling her once, twice, 3 times. No answer. He called her mother, who said, "Amira never came here." He called her brother. Same response. Islam began searching everywhere, calling her friends, checking hospitals, and going to police stations. But she had vanished without a trace. On May 2, 2024, the police called Islam and said, "Come identify a body." At the morgue in Port Said, Islam saw Amira. The body was mutilated, showing signs of strangulation with a metal chain, bruises all over, and whip marks on her back. Islam broke down, screaming, "Who did this to her?" The prosecution began an investigation and discovered that Amira had been talking to someone on Facebook, offering her a job in advertising. The messages were full of promises. "You'll become a commercial star," and "We'll give you a big contract." But the accounts were deleted, and there was no trace of that person. The second victim was Fatma. Fatma was a girl in her early 20s, a student at the Faculty of Arts, Cairo University. She dreamed of becoming a translator and was taking online courses in English and French. Her father, Haj Mohammed, worked at a grocery store and was very proud of her. He used to tell the neighbors, "Fatma is the one who's going to change our lives." Fatma was ambitious. She loved writing poetry and dreamed of traveling outside Egypt. She would share her dreams with her friends, saying, "I want to see the world." She helped her younger siblings, Salma and Ahmed, with their studies and told them adventure stories. Fatma had always been energetic. Her mother, Mrs. Zainab, said she loved reading since she was little. She would spend hours in the school library reading translated novels. When she got into university, she started dreaming of becoming a professional translator. She looked for online jobs to help support her family. She used to tell her father, "I want to help you. I don't want to be a burden." But her father would reassure her and say, "Just focus on finishing your studies first." Still, Fatma was in a hurry. She wrote poetry and shared it with her friends, who encouraged her to publish, but she was shy. On March 10, 2024, Fatma told her father she was going to take a language course in Tagamoa, Fifth Settlement. She was excited because she had heard that the place offered job opportunities. Her father told her, "Take care of yourself." And her mother said, "Make sure the place is trustworthy." Fatma reassured them, "Everything's fine." But Fatma never came back. Her father called her that night, but her phone was off. He went to the place she said she was going. It turned out to be just a regular office and no one had seen her. He filed a missing person report on March 15, 2024. 5 days later, on March 20th, 2024, the police found her body in a desert area. It was mutilated, with signs of strangulation and whip marks. When her father saw her, he collapsed and said, "I thought she'd come back." Her mother was screaming, "Who stole my daughter from me?" As for Nour, Nour was a young woman in her late 20s living in Zawiya El Hamra, a district in Cairo. She dreamed of getting a job opportunity that would change her life. Her mother said Nour always tried to help support the household. She loved drawing and dreamed of becoming a graphic designer. She was learning Photoshop and shared her designs with her friends. On April 3, 2024, she told her mother that she was going to meet someone who had offered her a job in advertising. Her mother tried to convince her to be cautious, but Nour was optimistic and said, "This is a big opportunity." Her mother told her, "Call me when you get there." But Nour never called. Her mother filed a missing person report on April 5th. On April 10th, police discovered her body near Route 30 June. It was mutilated, strangled with a chain, and covered in bruises. On May 5, 2024, the public prosecution began an intensive investigation after the discovery of Amira's body. Surveillance cameras on the Ismailia Road captured a luxury car moving on April 28. Using the license plate, they identified the owner on May 10, 2024, and located him in an apartment in New Cairo, Tagamoa El Khamis. When investigators entered the apartment, they found a studio-like setup with soundproofed walls designed to prevent screams from being heard outside. They found a laptop, mobile phones, and cameras containing over 300 videos documenting horrific crimes, the luring of victims, their torture, sexual assault, and disposal of their bodies. Investigators described the footage as a nightmare. On May 15, 2024, police confronted Karim with the videos. He confessed. He led them to the burial sites of Fatma and Nour and revealed a fourth body. DNA analysis confirmed the identities of the victims on June 20, 2024. The videos found in the Tagamoa apartment were irrefutable evidence. They showed that the victims, Amira, Fatma, and Nour, were lured in with fake job or business offers. The perpetrator preyed on their difficult circumstances, such as poverty or desperation, convincing them he was offering them a life-changing opportunity. Amira, for example, had met Karim multiple times before April 27, 2024. On that day when she went to the apartment, he gave her crystal meth, ice, causing her to lose consciousness. After she passed out, she was sexually assaulted, then strangled with a tie and hung with a rope in the bathroom. Even after her death, the perpetrator continued the assault. He then placed her body in a suitcase, transported it in his car to the Ismailia Road, and dumped it. He used the same method with Fatma and Nour, whose bodies were dumped in March and April 2024. The investigation also uncovered the involvement of a woman known as Om Shahd, a key figure in the case, who was charged with human trafficking. She was accused of bringing girls to Karim in exchange for money. Shockingly, she even offered her own daughter to him for abuse, showing that she had become numb to any form of morality or mercy, even toward her own child or the girls she delivered. Her motivation was purely the money she received from Karim. Om Shahd acted like a pimp disguised as a helper, pretending to create job opportunities for young women to support them. Because she was a woman, the girls trusted her, but they didn't realize they had fallen into a trap that would lead to the end of their lives. This was made clear during her confession on June 25, 2024. She admitted to luring girls from cafes and public places, convincing them with job opportunities. She received payment for each girl she delivered and served as a middlewoman in a criminal network. The investigation revealed that she had known Karim for years and had worked with him in an organized fashion. She was part of a mafia-like network. The trial began in July 2024 at the Cairo Criminal Court. The defendant appeared before the court, and his lawyer, Ahmed Mustafa, tried to defend him by claiming that the defendant suffered from psychological disorders. He also argued that the apartment was set up to shoot educational videos, not for crimes. But the court was not convinced. The videos were as clear as daylight, and the defendant himself told the judge at the session on August 10, 2024. The prosecution didn't torture me, but I was tortured by the officers on the stairs while I was being taken. This statement was a desperate attempt to evade punishment. On August 24, 2024, the court referred his papers to the Mufti to seek a religious ruling on his execution. On December 20, 2024, the criminal court issued its first ruling, death by hanging. The reasoning stated that the crimes were without mercy or compassion, and that the defendant had completely disregarded all human values. However, as Egyptian law states, this ruling was a first-instance verdict, and there was still an opportunity to appeal. On November 26, 2024, the court fined his ex-wife Lubna because she did not attend the session despite being notified, and postponed the trial to allow the attendance of the forensic doctor and Lubna. On November 25, 2024, the first confrontation took place between the defendant and Lubna, a moment full of tension. Karim said in court that he loved his wife, but his nerves and mental health deteriorated after their divorce, and that Lubna had been cheating on him with his closest and dearest friend, and that he wanted to take revenge on her. However, the presence of his son in his life was what saved her. He said he saw all women and girls as traitors like his wife Lubna, and he took revenge on them, believing that every time he killed one, he was healing his wounds by seeing his wife's image in her. Lubna said in court that her husband was good and respectful, but suddenly began to suspect her and became unbearable after that, and all the accusations he made against her, whether about cheating or anything else, were just figments of his sick mind. In the end, on May 14, 2025, the Court of Cassation upheld the death sentence. As for Om Shahd, no verdict has been issued yet. Strangely, in this case, the perpetrator was previously acquainted with most of the victims. He tried to provide them with job opportunities and was the one who offered the victims the jobs they went to and never returned from. Stranger still, the victims' families did not hire any lawyers for this case and have not yet received the bodies of their deceased. In a call from a journalist to one of the victims' families before the verdict, the family member said, "I hope Karim is not the perpetrator, because if he is, that means all the victims who lost their lives went to him completely willingly, took drugs willingly, and practiced immoral acts without any pressure. Naturally, he could have killed them after fulfilling all his desires." This case had other victims besides Amira, Fatma, and Nour. The perpetrator's son, a 6-year-old child, was sometimes present in the apartment during the crimes. The daughter of Amira, named Farida, a 6-year-old child, will live the rest of her life without her mother. The case made people look at social media differently because the perpetrator used it to lure his victims. On X, formerly Twitter, people talked about the case like it was a trending topic, with many describing it as a horror movie happening in real life. In the end, everyone, this case is not just a crime story, it's a story about evil that can hide anywhere. Amira, Fatma, and Nour were girls like any other girls. They had dreams and hopes, but fell into the trap of a sick person. The case shook Egypt and made people think about the importance of caution, especially when someone offers a job or opportunity online. The execution verdict on May 14, 2025, was the end of the tragedy, but the question remains: how can we prevent something like this from happening again? The lessons from this case continue. And with that, today's episode is over. If this is your first time watching the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. See you in a new episode. Goodbye.